Alright, hello everybody, ladies, gentlemen, and those currently pending for approval. I am doing a series where I go over each of the plugins using LMMS. So if you don't want to know about plugins or you don't use LMMS, then why are you watching this video? You can leave now. So as you can see, there are like 17 plugins that are already in LMMS, and so that's a thing. I don't know if it's exactly 17, but it's around 17. And so I found lots of tutorials on them, but I haven't found videos on each specific one. So that's what this series is going to be. In each episode, I'm going to go over a different one. So going in alphabetical order, we're going to start with this one. Today we're covering audio file processor. So I'm assuming that people using this already know how to use LMMS. They're just simply using this to learn more about a specific plugin. So in this case, we're going to learn more about audio file processor. So as you probably have figured out, it doesn't make sound. It's not a synthesizer. It plays back sounds. It does not make them. So you can turn these knobs, you can change this, you can do what you want. That's not going to help you. So you're going to have to get rid of that. So, but what you do want is, if you want to load in a sample, if you want like a long sample, say vocals, you're going to load it in with a sample track, and you can look up stuff about that. But let's say you want a short sample. Say, let's go to miscellaneous. Let's say this dong. Haha, dong. Nope, I didn't want that. So there you go. See, I can play a little melody, because it will take this single pre-recorded sample and simply play it at different notes. So this is the original sample that was recorded, and all you need to know, what it does is essentially it changes the speed. So I don't have much more to say about that. That's what it does. It changes the speed. So again, it works with anything else. You can use it for like this breath, which sounds kind of terrifying if you ask me, but that's a thing. So yeah, let's say, crap. So let's say I want this terrifying sounding breath. Sorry. That sounds horrible, but I can still do that. So anyway, back to our dong. So let's call this dong. So we have our fantastic dong, and this dong has a lot of settings because it's being used in audio file processor. Just like everything else, you can change the volume, you can change the panning, but you can also, some things that you can do in this that you can't do in other things since it uses samples, you can change how loud it is, at least a specific sample, by amplifying it. I'm not entirely sure why you wouldn't use this instead of, use this instead of volume. But I mean, you never know. So that's just whatever. If in case you want that, you can just use that. But you can also use the start point, and you can use this to change, pretty obviously, where it starts. So if I set it to the start of the sample, then it will play the whole sample. But if I set it to a little bit after, hang on, sorry, I just gotta make sure I'm actually recording all this. If you set it to a little bit after the start of the sample, then it might not. Then it'll start there. Pretty self-explanatory. So you can use it to play later. And one good application of this is, so let's say I'm going to grab this piano. Nope, I did that again. Dang it. So I'm going to grab this piano. So it's pretty obviously just a piano. But if I change the start point to right here, we kind of get the ambience of that piano, which is kind of sounds like a synthesizer. Very different from the actual piano. And so you can use it to do things like that. But in the case of the dong, you just want it to cut off the beginning of the dong. So I'm going over that for too long. This is the loopback point. I don't entirely understand how it works or what it does, so I'm going to skip that. Then there's the endpoint. Now this is pretty obvious, just like the start point, but where it ends. So if I set the start point to like right here, it's only going to play that much. But if I set the end point to right here, it's only going to play that much. But if I set the end point to all the way over here, it'll play the whole thing. See, like, not very much. Anybody that has an IQ of at least 3 can understand this. So that means I cannot. In any case, I figured it out somehow, so I'm going to show you looping now. So, as you can see, currently looping is set to off, as we have this little off button, so no looping. However, if we click this will give us ping pong loop. So basically we'll bounce back and play it again in reverse. And then also, you can see why it's called ping pong loop, since it bounces back and forth like a ping pong ball. And then there's just, what's it called? Just loop mode. So this one's pretty simple. You can just hold it and it'll keep playing it. So this would be useful if, like, let's say you shorten to the endpoint to right here. That wouldn't be useful in that case. But if you shortened it to, like, right there, well, that's not useful. But I mean, if you ever did want a song that had a sound like this, I mean, it does kind of sound a little bit working, a little bit. And so, interestingly, you can set it to the very beginning, and it'll loop it over. It'll just play the first waveform just over and over. But if you set the endpoint to this, you know, I'm overcomplicating this. You get the idea. That's looping, that's the endpoint, that's all that. This is the reverse option, and you can click that little backwards R, and it reverses it. Now the start point is just like this, and the endpoint is just like this. So there you go. That's what the reverse thing does. And the, let's see, the stutter thing makes it so that essentially, normally when you play it, if you stop without this and you play it again, it'll start over. But with the stutter, it'll stop at that point. So you can sort of go like, whereas you can't do that without the stutter, or at least not as easily. It'll just sound like that, and it won't go throughout the sample. So there you go. So let's make a little melody with this to demonstrate. So I have this dong, and I can use this dong. So I'm assuming that you already know how all this stuff over here works. So I'm going to give it some more release, add some reverb, pretty basic stuff. Well, if you know how to make music, or if you know how those kind of things work. So now I'm going to make some kind of melody. I like that, so like, so let's start like mapping that out. So now I've kind of made this short little melody using the dong. So there you go, that's pretty much a basic introduction, well, not a basic introduction, but an in-depth explanation as to how audio file processor works. One thing that I did not mention is what this is. There's none, linear, and sync. I have no idea what that means, but it seems to be like, with none, it seems to be like a little weirder. With linear, it's like weird. With sync, it's like weird also. I'm not entirely sure what it means, but I just don't mess with it. So there you go. That's how to use the audio file processor plugin.